Welcome to the Lighthome Sustainable Design podcast series. We talk with the architects and builders about green design and homes that really suit the way we love to live.
Lighthome took part in this year's Green Cities conference to hear from the experts about the latest green rating tool revolution.
Rating tool revolution, sponsored by the Dexus Property Group. My name's Darren Hillsborough. The hat that I'm wearing today as your facilitator as a director and board member of the Green Building Council. So I welcome you all here today. I would have thought this would have been the most eagerly anticipated session of anything that was happening at Green Cities. There's one thing that everyone knows that the Green Building Council is doing, or one thing they do know is about Green Star and about the rating tools that the Green Building Council have. Last year during this session we actually announced the Green Star Revolution, which was based upon the feedback that we received from you in this room and others within the industry, to give the Green Building Council the sort of feedback in regards to what they thought about the tools, what issues they might have had in relation to the tools, and how they would like the evolution or revolution of those tools to go forward. And we took all of that feedback on board. And I guess that's a part of today's session, is about describing to you all of the work that we are doing and have done since last year in trying to meet the industry's needs in a lot better way. Now today we have two speakers and an additional panellist. Each of the speakers will speak for 15 minutes and then we'll have a little Q&A session up here, and then I'll throw it back to the floor for you guys to ask all those burning questions that I'm sure you have for our panellists and speakers. Now, the first presenter that I'll ask to come up is Matthew Clark. Matthew is the Director of Water and Energy Programs at the Department of Climate Change and Energy Efficiency. And between, obviously, our two speakers, we're going to be talking about the two, I guess, best known, mostly used rating tools within Australia at this point in time, that being NABERS and Green Star. So Matthew will talk to us first of all about NABERS. Matthew, welcome.
Darren. Oops. Alright, it wasn't me that was running it. Okay. Now just thank you everyone for your kind welcome to me. Just one very minor point of correction. I'm not actually with the Commonwealth Department of Climate Change and Energy Efficiency. Those of you who are familiar with NABERS will know that it's a national program managed by the New South Wales Government, so I'm actually with the Environment Department in New South Wales. That's the Office of Environment and Heritage. My history with the program is quite lengthy. I've been managing NABERS and related programs for quite some time, so I'm coming here today to give you a bit of a history of where we've come to, and also what's happened over the last year since we last gave this talk. So just a very brief overview of NABERS for those of you who aren't familiar with it. NABERS is an operational building rating tool. What we look at is the actual operational performance of buildings that are existing. We're looking at their actual energy use, their actual water use, and broader environmental impacts, measuring those off their bills and the way that the building itself is actually used. The idea of doing that is to give people a really strong understanding of energy efficiency and water efficiency and other impacts on the environment, give them much more control over those technical impacts that the building has, and communicate in a really non-technical language that is a star rating. You'll see in a moment the changes that have actually come across that star rating, so that communication of energy efficiency over the last year. But when I last spoke to you, it was a 1 to 5 star scale. So in about the middle of last year, we actually launched a 6-star for the NABERS rating scale. So now it's a 6-star rating program. The first 5 stars are unchanged from the last time I spoke to you, as in 5 stars represents what was considered to be market-leading performance when we first established the scheme about 10 years ago. 2.5 to 3 stars was the original market average. We did some benchmarking work last year to actually understand what's going on in the market, what's happening at that 5-star level, and noting that actually a significant number of buildings were hitting that top level. So instead of being an aspirational market-leading performance, it was starting to become something that anyone could achieve, and therefore became a bit of a barrier to going beyond that 5-star point. So with the support of you guys in the market, we actually launched a 6-star to NABERS that was an extension, a stretch target really for those buildings that are going well beyond what we thought was even possible when we started the scheme 10 years ago. So it really reflects a massive change across the market, a change that has basically meant that sustainability and energy efficiency in particular has become mainstream. And I think you'll agree with me that actually we've seen a lot of a really significant movement over the last 10 years, such that 5 stars is no longer, the top rating, a 6-star, which has been introduced to represent that what new buildings can now achieve through new technologies, through new operational behaviours, and through, I guess, a new focus on environmental performance. So just looking at what the rating has achieved, this is a measure of the actual ratings that we've had, the market capture, I suppose, of buildings that have been rating. The reason that I know that you are quite familiar with the NABERS rating scheme is that most buildings in Australia have now been rated using NABERS. It's of course a mandatory scheme as of 12 months ago through the Commonwealth Building Energy Efficiency Disclosure Act, and so buildings that are greater than office buildings that are greater than 2,000 square metres need to disclose their NABERS rating at the point of sale or point of lease. So it's a scheme that has had a massive market uptake. You can see from this chart, basically the second last dot point is when the mandatory scheme came in force. So there has been a bit of a surge in the number of buildings that have been rated, but certainly it's a continuation of the growth that was there already, I suppose. So there was a very strong take-up of the NABERS rating scheme on a voluntary basis for the other dot points on that graph. This graph also shows that there has been a significant lift in water ratings as well. A large part of the reason of that is that when you do a NABERS office rating for energy use, the cost and complexity of getting your water rating is really how much water did you use? Show me your water bills, and that's pretty much as difficult as it is to get a water rating too. So a lot of buildings are actually taking advantage of understanding their energy efficiency to also take advantage to understand and take control of their water use as well. Also, some information that came to light last year, confirming, I suppose, what we found in terms of the market take-up of NABERS and that understanding over the last 10 years of NABERS needing to expand to that 6-star, so knowing that the best buildings are actually even better than we thought was possible. Some academic research last year actually returned clear data that suggested that market valuation is actually taking NABERS ratings into account. It also returned the same sort of information for Green Star ratings, so it shows that not just us energy efficiency experts or us greenies taking note of these schemes, it actually is really strong business. There's a really strong business case here, and those hard-nosed financial people, some of you may be here today, are actually seeing that there's a significant value in terms of tenant retention, in terms of actual building attractiveness and having these high-star ratings, and that's driving, that was shown in higher rents, lower vacancies, and significantly higher value. On that 6-star, we've also seen that a couple of different buildings have already started targeting the 6-star performance. So when a building is new or in design, it can actually make a commitment to the Office of Environment and Heritage that it will obtain a NABERS rating once it's operational and achieve a really high rating when it gets that rating. So there's 2 different buildings here that have made that commitment. One of them is actually a heritage building in the city, and the other one is in North Sydney, and they're 2, basically refurbishments of existing buildings. So showing that 6-star rating, which we really set as the top bar, is beyond what we thought was possible for new buildings only a short time ago, is actually now within reach of buildings that are doing major retrofits. So this is, again, just showing that the market has significantly shifted. Also happening over the last 12 months, it's actually been happening for slightly longer than that, but I guess the rubber's really hit the road over the last 12 months, and I'm sure that Andrew will talk a lot more about this, but we've been closely involved in the development of Green Star performance. So OEH is sitting on the committee that's actually developing that tool, and we're also meeting on a regular basis with the Green Building Council at an executive level to make sure that the organisational, that we're aligned organisationally and that we both understand where we're going, to really clarify how we work together and give you the market confidence over how the 2 tools work in combination. Again, I'm sure we'll talk more about that, but from OEH's perspective, we're very excited, I suppose, about the perspective of NABERS tools being called up by that performance tool, and I guess being brought into that broad environmental framework provided by Green Star. Again, over the last few months, actually, AIRA, the air conditioning industry and refrigeration and heating industry commissioned a review of NABERS, basically surveyed their members and also more broadly in the industry, asked for responses on what they thought we should do to actually make technical improvements to NABERS. So there was more than 100 responses to that survey, giving us really good and rich data about people that are currently using the tools, thinking about ways that they could use them more effectively, things that they've noticed in terms of the technical way the rules are put together, and other things that they've come across as practitioners in the market of basically technical improvements that we could make to make NABERS even more robust and effective. That review showed a very strong level of support from the market and basically suggested that NABERS was good, and here's some ways that we think that it could be improved. We look forward, I guess, to going through that review in more detail with our and the members, and actually, I guess, responding to that in terms of actually understanding what are the technical things that we need to put in place to actually address the concerns that have been raised, or certainly to take advantage of the opportunities that have been flagged as well. Following on from that, we will be shortly launching a strategic plan for NABERS that will give a lot of say, I guess, to you as the industry in terms of what you want to see NABERS do in the future, how you want to see us structured, how you want to see NABERS develop on an ongoing basis, how you want to engage with us. All of these questions we'll be addressing through our strategic plan and through close consultation with the market. We're aware that the Property Council's currently has done a survey over the last few months anyway of their members and has given some thought to some of the questions that we all hope to answer in the strategic plan. So the things that come up through that plan, through that survey, we expect to feed directly into the plan. So I guess we're basically setting forward a direction to suggest NABERS has been quite successful over the last 10 years, but we want to make sure that it is robust and reliable and responsive to the things that need to be done over the next year, the next 5 years and the next 10 years. So we'll set together a really clear plan of attack for NABERS, if you like, with close engagement with the industry, somewhat similar to the Revolutions document that you received from Greenside, I suppose. Just a couple of tools now to finish off with. You may know that we've been developing a rating tool for data centres for some time. We expect that that will be launched in the middle of this year. Data centres are very large energy consuming facilities. There's not that many of them, but they do make up a very significant component of Australia's energy use. This is a tool that will be a world leading tool in that it looks not just at the heating and cooling components of data centres, but also the efficiency of the information technology equipment, the data transfers and things like that within the data centres, which other people have tried to have a look at but not been successful. Effectively, that means it provides potentially a more secure type of finance for energy or for environmental upgrades. So it could be, we know that there are some finance providers that are actually offering very good financial rates for the loans that they're actually entering into. They could be longer term rates as well, longer term loans as well, because the repayment is actually tied to the council charges. So effectively, the building owner is liable only to pay those things that have been charged, not for future charges until such a time as until those charges come through. So effectively, it's a way for people to set up finance specifically for environmental upgrades in a way that can be repaid over a much longer time frame than current loans would normally be repaid within a couple of years, potentially at a lower rate. And furthermore, to actually set it up such that if you're currently passing on your council charges through leases to your tenants, you can pass these charges on as well, provided that there are energy savings or other savings to the tenant that offset those charges. So it's a way for you to overcome the split incentive between landlords and tenants. So it's a really innovative financial mechanism that should overcome a number of different barriers to retrofitting building upgrades. We've been, as I say, working with the councils. The Low Carbon Australia has been closely involved in coming up with those financial metrics and working with the finance providers to actually provide the low cost loans. So, if you are a building owner, I strongly encourage you to have a look at those, and if you'd like to talk to me about it later. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew.